Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Jam?
I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean? What I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Craig, one time during my career, I put on a Formula One tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
Where you go?
What's happening, my people? It's Cass Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, boxing in China. Has the family today. It's Thursday. We continue our trip around the world. Today is going to be boxing in China. Okay, we're going to look at a little history. We got a little piece on a guy that's called the Godfather of Chinese boxing. He opened the first boxing gym in China. He was the first Chinese promoter. And then, of course, we're going to look at women in boxing in China. All that today on Cass Sports, the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing in China. Of course, we're going to look at, I got like 10, not the 10 most well-known boxers, but 10 of the most well-known Chinese boxers. Of course, Philly Thang on the screen there. Okay, we got China's first world champion, I don't think Zhilei Zhang has had a championship. Has he? Not a major title. We got the guy that won the first major Chinese boxer that won the first major world title today. Yep, boxing in China today. Got a good one. How's everybody this Thursday afternoon? Pulled up on another weekend. Tomorrow, the profile is going to be the life and career of Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. I just noticed I had 240 on the thumbnail. Wow. I just noticed that. I hope everybody noticed that I'm live. Don't wait till 240. Wow. Okay, but boxing in China today. But first, as always, we will start with the fight of the day today. So let's jump into that. We always start the show with a fight of today. So let's do that. Today's fight of the day. Okay, today's fight of the day is two more Mexican warriors. Today we have Carlos Zarate versus Alfonso Zamora. Okay, now these two guys, when they signed this fight, everyone knew at that time that this was not going the distance. They didn't even need any judges. They could have just saved their money because these two guys, Zarate and Zamora, had 73 wins between them, and 72 of their combined wins were knockouts. So only one man that went the distance in either of these two guys' wins. I think Carlos Zarate had one win by decision, but between them, 73 fights when they met, 72 by knockout. So the safe bet on this fight, whoever you picked, was a knockout, okay? And that's what happened. So let's get into it. Carlos Zarate versus Alfonso Zamora took place in Inglewood, California on April 23rd, 1977. Okay? Now the fight between Mexicans, Carlos Zarate and Alfonso Zamora, respectively, the WBC and WBA World Bantamweight champions, was known as the Battle of the Z-Boys, right? Zarate Zamora, the Battle of the Z-Boys. Okay? It was held in Inglewood, California on April 23rd, 1977. Now, the fight was not recognized as a unification fight by neither of the sanctioning bodies, but for any specific reason given for withholding the sanction. So, neither one of their titles were on the line. They were both champions, but neither of the titles were on the line in this fight. No reason was given for that. As it turned out, the fight was one of the most anticipated 10-round fights in history among boxing fans, okay? Let's look at a little background to this fight. Look at the little background. There's Carlos Zarate. Now, Alfonso Zamora. Well, there's Zamora right there. There's Zamora. Alfonso Zamora was the first one of the so-called Z-Boys to become a world champion when he knocked out Su Hawan Hong in 4 rounds on March 14th, 1975 in Inglewood, California. He defended his title 3 times before Zarate had his first world title shot. One of Zamora's challenges was Eusebio Pedraza, the future WBA World Featherweight Champion, whom Zamora defeated by knockout in 2 rounds in Tijuana on April 3rd, 1976. Okay? Now there's Zarate. Zarate, for his part, won the WBC World title 1 year and 2 months after Zamora became WBA World Champion on May 8th, 1976, when he defeated defending champion Rodolfo Martinez by a 9th round knockout, also in Inglewood, California. Okay. Zarate and Zamora were both once trained by the same man, Arturo Hernandez. But Hernandez sold Zamora's contract to his father, Alfonso Zamora Sr. And Mr. Zamora Sr. took this as a form of disrespect towards him and his son. Okay? Took it as a form of disrespect. Ever since, Zarate and Zamora's managerial team carried on a war of words that was not missed by the Latin American sports media. Now, Zarate had a record of 45 wins, no losses, with 44 knockouts. And Zamora was 29-0 with 29 knockouts, right? Only one person that went the distance in any of their wins. With them, because they both were undefeated. Only one person between the two that went the distance. Their combined record of 74-0 with 73 knockouts arguably made for one of the most power punch-packed matches in boxing history. Now, fans in Mexico and the rest of Latin America were captivated by the announcement of this fight. The fact that both the WBA and WBC refused to recognize it as a world championship fight did little, if anything, to cool the ardor of enthusiastic boxing fans. Okay? So let's look at this fight now. Let's check out the fight. The Los Angeles Police Department knew from experience, such as the 1969 fight between Lionel Rose and Chuco Castillo, which was fought in Inglewood, and much later on, the first fight between Riddick Bowe and Andrew Golota, that boxing fights can end up in riots. Because of this, they sent an anti-riot squad to the Inglewood Forum on the day of the event. Mike Rim is in the building. What's up, Mike Rim? I know, Mike, I had 240 on the thumbnail. That was a mistake. Yeah, started at my regular time. I just noticed it was 240, but salute Mike Rim. Fight of the day today is Carlos Zarate, Alfonso Zamora. Had a combined record between them 75-0, 74 knockouts. Only one man that went the distance in a combined 75 fights between these two. One fighter went the distance of either of them. So the safe bet, whoever you picked to win this fight, was to pick a knockout. The anti-riot team would have to jump into the ring when 52 seconds into the fight, an apparently drunk fan jumped into the ring with the apparent intention of attacking one of the combatants. The man did not reach any of the night's main stars, however, because 5 policemen were able to stop him immediately, taking him out of the arena. It's a good thing they had them there. They anticipated something like that. Now, Zamora and Zarate began slugging right after that incident, with Zamora winning the first round on the judges' scorecards by throwing more punches than Zarate. Didn't even really need any judges because you knew this was going to be a knockout. Combined 75-0, 74 knockouts between them. In the second round, Zamora appeared hurt after a right and left combination by Zarate, but he roared back to hit Zarate with a right and left combination of his own later in the round. Round 3 was filled with combinations from both fighters. Zarate, however, began to connect with long jabs and short-range hooks. Zamora began to throw wide punches and seemed spent. He suffered a knockdown towards the end of the round. By round 4, Zarate looked stronger and fresher than Zamora. He kept attacking the WBA champion, who tried in vain to answer. Early in the round, Zarate dropped Zamora twice, and Alfonso Zamora Sr. threw in the towel, giving Zarate a 4th round knockout win. Yep. 4th round knockout. That was a safe pick. And there's the winner, Carlos Zarate. Crush the Legend in the building. What's up, Crush? Crush the Legend. 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. Fire podcast. Salute, Crush. That was our fight of the day. Was Carlos Zarate and Alfonso Zamora. Was a 4th round knockout, which everybody knew because, like I said, these two fighters had a combined record of 75-0 with 74 knockouts, right? So you knew this was going to be a knockout. And Zarate won by 4th round knockout. Now, the aftermath of the fight. Immediately after the fight was over, Alfonso Zamora Sr. and Arturo Hernandez had a fight of their own. And the anti-riot, those are the two trainers. And the anti-riot police once again intervened, putting a stop to the fight between Zarate and Zamora's trainers. After the fight, the two trainers got in the fight. Because early in their careers, Hernandez used to train both of them. But he dropped Zamora for some reason, and Zamora and his father didn't take that too kindly, and they fought after the fight, the trainers. Now, Zarate went on to lose to Wilfredo Gomez for Gomez's WBC World Junior Featherweight Championship. He defended his WBC World Bantamweight title 5 more times before losing it on June 3rd, 1979 to Lupe Pintor by a 15-round split decision in Las Vegas, Nevada. Admiration towards Zarate by boxing fans grew considerably after he beat Zamora. Zarate retired after losing to Pintor, but had a mildly successful comeback during the middle 1980s, going as far as challenging Jeff Fennick for the WBC World Junior Featherweight Championship on October 16, 1987 in Sydney, Australia. Now, Zamora's popularity was not diminished after losing to Zarate, but his self-esteem was. Zamora lost his WBC World Bantamweight title in his very next fight, being knocked out in 10 rounds by Panamanian Jorge Lujan on November 19th in Los Angeles, California. He only won 4 of the last 8 fights of his career before retiring in the late 1970s. A proposed super fight against Wilfredo Gomez was mentioned early in 1983, but Zamora did not accept, as he had permanently retired from boxing. And there you have it, the fight of the day. Appreciate you, Crush the Legend. And there's Thomas Hill in the building. Yeah, we had fight of the day today between two punchers, T. Hill. Carlos Zarate, Alfonso Zamora, combined 75-0, 74 knockouts between them. Okay, boxing in China today. We're gonna talk about history of boxing in China, and then I got a piece on this guy they call the Godfather of Chinese boxing. He opened the first boxing gym in China, and he was the first Chinese promoter. Okay, and then of course we're gonna talk about some women's boxing in China. Got to cover the women. You know, they get in there and put it on the line for us too. Okay, so we're going to cover the women. So let's get into boxing in China today. Okay. How's everybody? We are right at the weekend. Thursday. Sky Nicholson, promising young female fighter in action this weekend. I think she's going to probably be the next big thing in women's boxing, and Katie and Amanda and the Wolf and all those people move on to their post careers. Okay, but yeah, boxing in China. Yeah, we got the Godfather of Chinese boxing. Gonna talk about some women. Big show today on Cast Sports, the Box Story. Appreciate everybody stopping by so far. Hope you enjoyed the show. Okay, let's get into it. Now, China, is it a boxing superpower? Let's talk about it. Okay, is China a boxing superpower? It is our country for this week, China. Now, China is regarded as a world mega power, perhaps only rivaled these days by the United States of America. It is a massive land area and has a population of over 1 billion. It has also become a massive power in a sporting sense as well, although some would point to that only being in sports that offer Olympic medals, like Hitler's 1936 team and many of the Soviet teams. Sporting success was meant to signify the arrival of China as a superpower. Only once since the 1984 Olympics has China finished outside the top 4 in terms of gold medals. It is also a country with a history in combat sports. So why has it not produced a boxing star? It only has 3 world champions in its history. And we're going to talk about the first ever Chinese champion to win a major title too. It wasn't Zhilei Zhang. Has Zhilei Zhang even won a major title? I don't think so. He might have had a minor or something. But no, Zhilei Zhang hasn't had a major title. No. Okay. You're boxing around the world today. China. Now, Con Chu challenged Jesus M. Rojas for the WBA regular featherweight title in January 2019. It was largely seen as a footnote to another Pour the Zone card. Instead, it was an early frontrunner for the fight of the year. And China got his 3rd male world champion as Chu upset Rojas, winning a close decision. He joined Teo Zhang and Chai Ming Zhu, but he also showed that China is still a long way from embracing boxing. Those are their 3 world champions. No, I'm not going to say those names again. No way. But it's still a long way from embracing boxing. It is not a traditional sport in China, and most of the interest comes in the shapes of stars. Perhaps the biggest star worldwide in Chinese boxing right now is Zhilei Zhang. Okay? Although, despite his amateur pedigree, which includes a medal at the 2008 Olympics, Zhang is not considered a star in China. Instead, the superstar remains Chai Ming-shu. The only problem, Chai Ming-shu has not boxed for years, right? Now, Chai Ming was the first Chinese man to win an amateur world championship and is regarded as the greatest Chinese boxer of all time. To people who only paid attention to boxers from the home nations, he will be remembered for twice defeating Paddy Barnes in Olympic semifinals before going on to capture the gold medal, both in 2008 and 2012. Now, before that, his first Olympics actually came in 2004, where he won a bronze medal. He lost to Jan Bartholomew in the finals. In the meantime, he won 3 amateur world championships, despite not competing in 2009. He also won a 2003 silver medal, which tied him at 5th place in the most successful amateur world championships in boxing, alongside Serafim Todorov, who was the last man to defeat Floyd Mayweather. It was a hell of an amateur career for Chai Ming-shu. No doubt the highlight being the Olympic gold medal in 2008, which was the 50th Chinese gold medal of their home games. He was even a big favorite of Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, Chu did what most successful amateurs do by turning pro. Now, because of his success and the untapped potential of the Chinese market, he was snapped up by Bob Arum, right? Bob Arum Bradley, Chai Ming-shu. Now, his debut and subsequent 6 fights took place in Macau. The age in Las Vegas has become a bit of a staple for Bob Arum events, hosting events regularly at the Venetian Resort, including two Manny Pacquiao fights. Now, Chai Ming-chu's debut was watched by a reported 300 million people, while he produced the gate of $3 million for his second pro fight at the Cotai Arena. Only 3 countries have a higher population than that number, right? Of people that watch the fight. Only 3 countries have a higher population than that. Now, Chang Li, president of a leading sports marketing company in China, described Chai Ming-chu as a top 3 male athlete in China. He has been responsible for reintroducing boxing to China. And when he turned pro, that's pretty much how pro boxing in China took off. There's a huge anticipation for his fights. And given the huge interest in him, his amateur experience and age, it was not long before Chu was fighting for a world title. It was just his 7th fight where he would take on Amnat Ruenrong. Despite his pre-fight claims that he had all the Chinese people on his back when he fought, he couldn't overcome the Thai fighter. A controversial knockdown was scored for Chu in the 2nd round, but the Thai fighter was too fast to be caught by Chu consistently. Despite defeat as a favorite, he claimed, "This is not the end. This is just the beginning." He would not box in Macau again, first going to China, then to the United States. After a few rebuilding fights, he got another world title shot, this time taking on Prasisak Prapong, who he had previously defeated for the vacant WBO title in a piece of convenient matchmaking. He was comfortable, barely losing a round, and dropping his opponent in round 2. The fight, which was in Las Vegas, was the first time many Chinese media and fans traveled to Las Vegas to watch the Chinese boxer in a big top-level boxing show. Again, the viewership numbers claimed by Bob Arum were unfathomably large. In his first defense against Sho Kimura, Chu was a 10-1 favorite. He led on the scorecards, but the pressure of the Japanese fighter told late, and Kimura scored a stunning stoppage that left the home supporters shocked into silence. It would be his final stand. He would lose sight in his left eye, whilst claims were made by his wife that he was forced to fight through health issues and was owed money by his team. You remember, the Godfather was his promoter. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, his wife said he was forced to fight in spite of health issues, and he was still owed money by his team. Wow. Let's look at a little history of boxing in China. That was just a little bit about the boxers in China. They had 3 world champions. Chai Ming-chu was probably the most famous Chinese boxer, and he did win a world title. I think he won on 2 separate occasions. Now, the history of Chinese boxing dates back 3,700 years, when China was in the late Shang dynasty, and the sport was one of the subjects for military training conducted by aristocrats. By the Han dynasty, another 1,000 years later, boxing became a mandatory subject for soldiers. By the 1900s, it was mainly a street sport in port cities, although some evidence suggests the Chinese have been using boxing gloves for hundreds of years. At the same time, though, Kung Fu, a catch-all term containing numerous disciplines, was beginning to flourish alongside the populist patriotic movement. It promoted its quintessential Chinese lineage, culminating in the sport's inclusion at the 1936 Olympic Games, that was Kung Fu. The sport grew rapidly in the 1930s, with no supervision from the Chinese government, and some sports academies. No, this is back to boxing now. Now, the sport grew rapidly in the 1930s, with no supervision from the Chinese government, and some sports academies put boxing classes in their major curriculum. and fostered a number of Chinese boxing talents. The problems for boxing began in the late 1950s. It did not make the inaugural Chinese National Games when created in 1959. A fact mainly blamed on the death of a boxer in Tianjin in 1953. Boxing would come to be considered a foreign sport in China. Now, China had become anti-Western and anti-capitalist. The brutal, ruthless nature of boxing had come to be considered a characteristic of the Western world. China saw itself as about humility, reserve, and containing your anger in the face of confrontation. Boxing was seen as something so American that they decided to put an end to it. Following the Communist Revolution of 1966, all competitive sport was banned. Kung Fu would arguably suffer a worse fate than boxing, as it was curtailed and practitioners brutally persecuted during the 1966-1976 Cultural Revolution. Now, despite this lack of a tradition for boxing, Muhammad Ali became the first foreign athlete to be jointly invited by the Chinese Olympic Committee and China Sports Federation for a state visit. He famously met with leader Deng Xiaoping, staying for 8 hours and made quick visits to the Forbidden City and the Great Wall. Now, the ban on sports would last almost 20 years, as the ban was lifted in March 1986. And by the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, Chinese boxers were competing. Yeah, Muhammad Ali had a lot to do with that ban being lifted, because I think he went over there in like the middle 80s, something like that. And it wasn't too long after that that they lifted the ban on boxing. The Drunk Irishman is in the building. Salute. Little history of China on boxing today. And Al Booger. What's up, Al Booger? How are you today? Okay. Yeah, China has only had 3 world champions so far. Will Zhilei Zhang be the 4th? I don't think so. I don't think so. But let's continue. And whilst the popularity of Chai Ming-Chu was almost unmatched for someone so inexperienced, it did not seem to have a knock-on effect. Other Chinese boxers are not in the same realm of popularity. Now, Deng Xiaoping also won gold in 2008 with 4 other medals. Dino Duva worked as a special international consultant to help raise the level of the boxers, the coaches, the sport in general in China, and considered himself very impressed, and the boxers looked like they were really, really good. Now, Cheo Zhang became the first boxer to win a world title in November 2012. He didn't capture the masses by any means, although that can be attributed to the fact it was in the strawweight division, with struggles to get eyeballs anywhere on the globe, even in the United States. Ma Yiming will lose a world title shot in April 2015. Now, Chu added to the list in 2019, and after his win, standing in front of the Chinese flag, when asked where his power came from, Chu responded, "It's from China. I am Chinese. It's for the country," which was greeted by cheers. Nicknamed the Monster, he was seen as many a bit of a boogeyman in the division, but was disappointing when soundly beaten by Leigh Wood. He was part of M23, which is short for Mission 2023, a team that set a goal upon its founding that they will bring up 5 world boxing champions before the end of 2023. Yeah, they didn't accomplish that goal though, because it still only got 3. Yeah, they wanted 5 world champions by the end of 2023. With Chile losing another fight at the end of 2022, that goal seemed almost impossible. Now look at the ranking will tell you that China lacks any real contenders. The most famous current Chinese boxer is probably, like I said before, Zhilei Zhang, right? And Zhang was linked with a big money fight against Anthony Joshua, right? But that never developed. But he did have a strong performance against Philip Hrgovic, where he arguably deserved the win, showed his ability, right? And then he had the loss to Joe Joyce, remember? And then he had the win against Deontay Wilder. So Chang is probably the most famous Chinese boxer. Now, perhaps the strongest Chinese boxers at the moment come from the women's amateur ranks. They won 3 medals at the 2016 Olympics, while Hong Gu and Qian Li won silver medals in the delayed Tokyo Olympics. Now, Zhang Guanhu won a medal in 2016, and they were expecting her to do better in Tokyo. The amateur tournaments like the Shanjing Showdown have seen growing popularity after first being held in the capital in 2015. Another idea to grow the sport came from a partnership between the Top Rank and the SCCA organizing League of Fists, which aimed to grow the sport in China. Now, there seems to be no record of this continuing over the past few years. Honestly, boxing has maybe missed its chance to make it big in China. That is not to say it doesn't have enormous potential down the road. The momentum from the 2008 regime, desperate to put on a show for the world, was one opportunity. Whereas in some sports, that became the base level of Chinese sport. Boxing never really benefited from that. The other opportunity was to really benefit from the exposure that Chai Ming provided. The popular boxer could have fronted massive cards in China, with undercards showcasing the upcoming Chinese talents as well as potential star attractions to help the popularity boost. Unfortunately, it did not work, right? Didn't work out. That means China remains a dormant drawer in the world of boxing. Maybe the Chinese prefer the rigid structure offered in the UFC. The quantity and quality of fighters are certainly higher, although to some extent, it is that matched by investment from the UFC, which boxing, with its lack of a universal body, doesn't have the same appetite for. Or maybe it's just never going to happen for China. Okay? Now, I got an article about this guy that they call the godfather of Chinese boxing. He opened the first boxing gym in China, and he became the first Chinese promoter. And when Ali went over there in the 80s, this guy was a kid, and he actually met Muhammad Ali. And that that was what inspired him to become a boxer. You know, he actually met Ali, shook his hand and everything, when Ali was over there in the 1980s. Yeah, and that inspired him to become a boxer. And now he ended up opening the first boxing gym over there, and he became a promoter. We call him the godfather of Chinese boxing. Let's talk about him in China today. Pray for me over these names. I know I'm doing some butchering, but I'm doing my best. I looked up some of them on that pronunciation app, but I forgot how they pronounce. I did that this morning, but now I forgot the pronunciation. So I'm gonna do my best. The godfather of Chinese boxing. Now there's hope for boxing in China, because China is finally emerging as a producer of world-class pro boxers. That's almost entirely down to the work of one man, Gang Li. That's too much butchering you can do with that. Gang Li, right? G-N-G Li. Okay. and there is Gang Lee. Okay, the godfather of Chinese boxing. That's what they call him. Now, few people have heard of Gang Lee, but the 50-year-old has a claim to be one of the most influential figures in the history of professional boxing. Over more than 2 decades, Lee has almost single-handedly and from scratch built up the sport in the world's most populous nation. He was one of China's first amateur boxers, a member of its first Olympic boxing team, and then became the first Chinese fighter to turn professional. Okay? First one. That there is China's first batch of elite amateur boxers, right there. And they also had got some coaches from Cuba to help them too. Okay, but that's what that picture is. Now, after hanging up his gloves, Lee opened China's first pro boxing gym and became the country's first pro boxing promoter. Since then, he has guided young Chinese fighters to a string of pro titles, including 2 world championship belts. Okay, they got 3 world champions. He guided 2 of them to their titles. Chang Lee. Now middle-aged, Lee remains baby-faced and a whirlwind of energy. Meeting the interviewer from this site called Sixth Tone in a hotel lobby in the southwestern city of Kunming, he launches into an account of his journey into the sport. It all began, he says, with a visit from Muhammad Ali. When Lee was a child, boxing didn't exist in China. The sport had been banned since 1956. It was only reintroduced 30 years later when Muhammad Ali traveled to China and met with the country's leader. Ali touched Dang's fist and said, "Your fist is very hard. I can help China make many champions," says Lee with a grin. It's a true story. Soon after this meeting, the Chinese sports authorities received instructions to restart amateur boxing. Scouts fanned out across the country to pick out talented kids to be made into the People's Republic's first boxing team. Among those identified in the first round of selections in 1986 was Lee, then a wiry 15-year-old middle school student. Now, why me? First, because I loved every sport, and I think I wanted it more than others, says Lee. I was mentally tough. Now, Lee immediately agreed to go to a sports boarding school in the provincial capital, Chengdu, to learn how to box. He'd never been a great student and knew that as sports took priority over the classroom in this boarding school. There was just one problem. Lee had no idea what sport he was going to be practicing. I was very confused. Is it fighting? Is it like martial arts? Lee recalls, our coach said it's a sport from Western country. He had no idea what boxing was, He had never done it before. But they picked him out to go to this boarding school to learn it. He had met Muhammad Ali and everything, but he had never boxed. This is the gym he opened. He calls it M23. It stands for Mission 23. Some of the boxers in there training. Yep. He opened the first boxing gym in China. At first, Lee was delighted to be done with studying, but then the training started. He was one of the first students to go to that first boxing school they had after Ali left. Now, 10-kilometer runs at 6 a.m. in the morning, then weights, then physical training, then bag training. Lee shakes his head. After lunch, we trained until 6 p.m. We trained 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. Sparring was just like a street fight, he continues, lowering his head and throwing looping punches. Bang, bang, bang. Lots of blood. We didn't have good quality gloves. They were very hard, like this. He taps his knuckles on the table. But the hardest thing of all was making the weight for competitions, which required training full intensity while cutting down his food intake. I was only 18. I thought, I can't do this anymore, says Lee. But I didn't want to go back to studying. I wanted to be an athlete, and I was proud to be part of the provincial team with my uniform that says Sichuan. In 1988, Lee took part in China's first national amateur boxing championship. He didn't get a medal, but he caught the attention of the coaches and was selected to train with the national team. The Chinese team's first overseas foray was a harsh reality check. In an international tournament in North Korea, the Chinese fighters got trounced, got beat down. Now, the lesson was learned, and China brought in foreign coaches from the Soviet Union, North Korea, and Cuba. Their expertise proved to be a game changer. When they brought the foreign coaches in, that was a game changer. Foreign coaches were very important to us, says Lee. My Cuban coach, Pedro Diaz, I love that guy. And there is Lee and Diaz, right there. It's Lee on the right, Coach Pedro Diaz on the left. Lee on the left, Coach Pedro Diaz on the right. He was brought in from Cuba. They brought in coaches from the Soviet Union, North Korea, and Cuba. All communist countries, right? To communist China. What's up, Define Arnie One in the building? Boxing in Cuba today. This guy was Lee. He was opened the first boxing gym in China called Mission 2023. That's when it Mission 23, and he was the first Chinese boxing promoter. But salute, Define Arnie. How are you today? God bless you back, brother. Yeah, that's Lee and the Cuban coach, Pedro Diaz. Diaz, D-I-A-Z. Okay. Now, Diaz moved to China to prepare the Chinese team for the 1990 Asian Games. It was a breakout success. Just 4 years after boxing was reintroduced to the country, China won 1 gold, 5 silvers, and 1 bronze medal. 2 years later, guided by Diaz, Lee, and 3 other Chinese boxers made history by qualifying for the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, Spain. That's when where Oscar got his gold medal, remember? Now, we achieved great things together, Diaz tells the interviewer. I think I learned more from the Chinese. No, this is the coach, the Cuban coach. He said, we achieved great things together. I think I learned more from the Chinese than they learned from me. Not only philosophy and culture, but also about life and hard work. Okay. Now, this is a picture of China's first Olympic boxing team, right? That's Coach Diaz in the middle, and that's Lee right next to him. Coach Diaz with the mustache, Lee right next to him, holding up the peace sign. Well, that's him to his right, right to his immediate right, that's Lee. Okay, to his left, on our right. That's China's first Olympic team. He competed in Barcelona, Spain, 1992. Okay. Now, Diaz still works closely with Lee to this day. He now coaches one of his top young fighters, Chu the Monster Khan, or Khan Chu, who claims the World Boxing Association WBA featherweight title in 2019. Okay. And Diaz says, I think of Gang Lee as family. Now in Barcelona, 1992, Lee lost in the first round, but he took it in stride. He was already looking beyond the amateur game. I decided to go overseas and turn professional. I was 23 years old, a good age to try something new, he said. Now, his friends and family were horrified. What? Professional boxing? No head guard? Mike Tyson? Too dangerous. Don't go. His family was telling him. he wasn't gonna fight Mike Tyson. He wasn't a heavyweight, but they had seen Mike Tyson on TV knocking people out and everything, and they was like, no, Mike Tyson, don't go. But he went. And this right here is this picture right here. Is Lee Gang and Jeff Finnick in Australia. Lee went to Australia, right? Remember Jeff Finnick, the Australian boxer? That's Jeff on the left, Lee on the right. I think he was still an amateur when he went over there and competed in some kind of amateur tournament. 1994. Yeah. That was after the, here we go now, let's talk about this picture. In 1994, once he saved enough for a plane ticket, Lee flew to Australia to try and make it as a pro boxer. Guess he's doing some kind of training there with Finnick. He took a string of blue-collar jobs, working in a restaurant, as a cleaner, and in a factory to make ends meet. After his shift, he'd head to the gym for training. Nobody spoke Chinese. My friends, landlord, and coach were all Australian, recalls Lee. Very quickly, I could communicate in English. Lee officially became China's first pro boxer in 1996, but tragedy struck in his very first pro fight against Australian featherweight champion Lance Hobson. In the 6th round, Hobson suddenly collapsed. He died from a brain hemorrhage the following day. Yep. The guy died from brain damage that he fought in his first fight. That could have been enough to end his career. Now, Lee said, I couldn't understand it. A young man, he was just 23, and now he is dead. I was crushed. Now, Lee says he's still deeply grateful. He's still deeply grateful to Hobson's family, who went out of their way to support him after their son's death. His parents and his family told Lee they didn't blame him. They knew what their family member was into, right? They are a great family, Lee says. His mother and father went on TV and said, this was an accident. We don't want people to blame Gang Lee. He came to Australia to change his life. Yeah, that was very nice there. They understood, right? It's boxing. Unfortunately, that happens. That's part of the sport. Unfortunate part, but hey, and his family understood. But then that's something, his very first pro fight, the guy he was fighting died. So that would have been enough to end the career right then. You know, many boxers would have said, oh no, I'm not fighting anymore. Your first fight, the guy you punching on dies? Wow. Then in the end, Lee's pro career lasted just 2 years, but he went on after that for 2 years. But he decided to stay in Australia to earn his promoter's license. Several years later, he returned to China with a network of pro connections and a thick Aussie accent. So he turned into a promoter, just boxed for 2 years, and then he got his promoter's license. Okay. Okay, so settling in the southwestern city of Kunming, Lee set to work trying to build a pro boxing scene in China. He registered China's first pro boxing promotional company and opened the country's first professional boxing gym. That's when he opened this gym up. Things started slow. Lee's first pro boxing show attracted a meager audience. TV networks showed little interest, but then he had a stroke of luck. Okay? In 2005, Lee's show became a hit when a local boxer named Chu the Tiger Chuck Zing, Kong Liang, defeated the Thai fighter Ponsik Wangwasset to win the World Boxing Council WBC Asia Championship. And that was Chinese boxing's first pro title. It was a regional title, but that was their first pro title, the WBC Asia Championship. okay? And there's the guy that won that first pro title, right? Regional title, but it was their first professional title. When it's your country's first pro title, you'll take it, regional or whatever. And that's the guy right there in the middle. I'm not gonna say his name no more, okay? But that's him in the middle. Chinese flag behind him, okay? Then in 2008, a coal mine laborer called Chuang Keozhong walked into Lee's gym. After seeing videos of Mike Tyson, Chuang had moved to Kaiming from a village 300 kilometers away, where he had been pushing carts loaded with coal for 10 won, $14 a day, right? Hoping to start a new career as a boxer. He had no boxing experience whatsoever. But in just 6 years, Lee guided him to a WBC minimum weight world title, making him China's first male world champion. Yeah, that was the first one. First male world champion in pro boxing. His journey from a coal mine to the top of pro boxing captivated China and raised the profile of the sport in the country. Lee is now China's top boxing promoter. His company, Max Power, works with industry heavyweights such as Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy Promotions. In 2018, he opened a large modern gym called M23 in Beijing, where he trains boxers from every corner of the country. His boxing shows are now shown on China Central Television, CTV, the country's national broadcaster. Several of Lee's fighters have become Asian champions and youth world champions in recent years. Flyweight and cruiserweight fighters. They had a flyweight fighter and a cruiserweight fighter from his gym that challenged for world titles. But Lee's biggest success has been masterminding the rise of his second world champion, Khan Zhu, the monster. Like the other guy, he came from poverty to reach the top of the sport. And there's Khan Zhu right there. He won the WBA title. He beat Jesus Rojas. Houston, Texas, 2019. Oh, there he is. That's him there. Khan Zhu was born very poor, says Lee. His father was making bread, selling it on the street. His family would stay somewhere for 1 or 2 years, then move to another city. Chu's father was obsessed with martial arts. He had even changed his own name to Little Dragon, Bruce Lee's Chinese name. In 2012, he moved his family to Kunming so his son could train at Lee's gym. The family collected bottles for recycling and sold bread in the streets to support themselves in the city. 7 years later, with Pedro Diaz in his corner, Chu outpointed Puerto Rico's Jesus Rojas to win the WBA featherweight title in front of a packed arena in Houston, Texas. We made a champion and we flew the Chinese flag in America, says Lee, grinning broadly. Lee takes great pride in his fighters' achievements inside the ring, but says that the ultimate aim is for them to become successful and independent after the fighting days are over. Right? He points out Zhang Chaiping, a retired former Asian and world youth champion, sitting in the next seat. In his first fight, he made 500 yuan, says Lee. Now he has 2 boxing gyms, a family, and a daughter. Lee feels certain the best is yet to come. China now has plenty of talented, hungry young fighters, he says. It's only a matter of time before most of them become world champions. I want to help some poor kids, he says. Chinese people's mentality has changed. I'm confident that China has a market for pro boxing. I have plans. So our hope is not lost for Chinese boxing, okay? So now let's look at some women's boxing in China. Okay, we got to look at the women. Let's check out the women's boxing in China. And then we're going to talk about 10 boxers from China. And then it'll probably be around late time then. Okay. Yeah, let's look at some women's boxing in the country of China. Boxing in China today. Okay. Yeah, let's check out some women's boxing over there. Okay. So now, tired of being warm and soft, China's women step into the boxing ring. Okay. Tired of being warm and soft, they step into the ring. Now, young Chinese women are increasingly seeking to break out of traditional gender norms. For many, that starts with building a muscular physique and learning to kick some butt. Okay? Building a muscular physique and learning to kick some butt. At 6 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, dozens of young women streamed through the doors of Mayo's boxing gym in downtown Shanghai. Everybody knew how to pronounce that, Shanghai, even me. Downtown Shanghai. Mostly in their 20s and 30s, women have just got off work or school and are ready to kick some butt. After helping each other put on their hand wraps, they spend the next 2 hours working the pads and punch bags. Their shouts and yells filling the room. I never imagined how popular this training spot would become when I started out 13 years ago. Gong Jin, the owner of the all-female gym, who preferred to go by the name Mayo, tells the interviewer. Boxing has exploded in popularity among Chinese women in recent years as the country's young females seek to break out of traditionally gender norms and adopt the new doctrine of female empowerment. Rather than trying to appear slender and elegant, women are increasingly posting videos of themselves pummeling heavy bags and showing off their newly toned physiques on social media. Many claim the sport has given them a new sense of confidence, helping them feel physically stronger and better able to defend themselves. The trend has inspired a wave of mockery and criticism from some conservative Chinese men. The women are pushing back strongly, with many embracing the label female boxer as a badge of honor. Okay. And there's Mayo working out with some of her women in her gym. That's her on the right with the yellow pads on her hands. Yeah, working on one of her young women boxers. That was in 2023. Now, muscular women. What's up, Kid Manila in the building? USA, USA, USA. Salute, Kid Manila. Appreciate you stopping by. Like and subscribe, please. Appreciate you. Talking about boxing in China today. Every Thursday we do a different country. Today is China, okay? Now, muscular women. Boxing gyms across China are reporting an uptick in female members. One of the country's leading gym chains said that women made up 70% of its members in 2021. Boxing coaches based in Shanghai, the northern city, and Haikou in southern China, all told the boxing site Six Tone that they had more female clients than ever at this time. Now, Mayo, who founded Shanghai's first women's only boxing gym after retiring from her pro boxing career in 2010, said the business has been so good that she recently opened a second location. Okay? Opened a second location. For many women, a big part of the attraction of combat sports is the chance to achieve a more muscular physique. Until recently, the dominant beauty trend in China prized women who were pale, slim, and youthful. But that is now rapidly changing. Pale, slim, and youthful, but that is now rapidly changing. Mixed martial arts star Weili Zhang has played a big role in this. When she became China's first Ultimate Fighting champion, first UFC champion in 2019, Zhang's powerful body became an object of fascination on Chinese social media. So did her fearless attitude, famously telling one interviewer, "I don't think women should be defined in a certain way. Women can be everything." And there she is, famous Chinese UFC star. Yeah. Weili Zhang. She looked like she get ready to kick some butt or just got finished kicking some. One of the two. Get ready to kick some butt or just kick some. Now, Keon Chen, a Chinese gender equality advocate, tells Sixth Tone that Zhang has since become a role model for women across the country. She has popularized the new idea of femininity, one that combines physical strength with confidence and self-possession. We didn't have this kind of powerful, aggressive female icon in China until Zhang's legendary victory, says Chen. To many, Zhang shone a light on women entering combat sports. Now, Chinese women are muscling up like never before, according to Chinese commerce platform JD.com. Sales of strength sports equipment to female boxers skyrocketed 65% since in 2021. Strength sports equipment to female users skyrocketed 55% in 2021. Okay. Now, on China's closest equivalent to Instagram, the tag Muscular Women has received more than 140 million views, with most of the top posts featuring women flexing their biceps and sharing their workout routine. There's some of the screenshots that's on this social that they put on this social, not that, but the women put on the social media site right there. Now, boxing is a favorite sport for women trying to achieve a toned physique. According to Chen, it's tough, but not too tough. Trying MMA like Weili Zhang may be hard, Chen says. Boxing can be easier and fun. Now, other women are taking up boxing as a way to teach themselves self-defense. Like many other countries, China has seen a string of high-profile gender-based violence incidents in recent years. Every boxing coach who spoke with Sixth Tone confirmed that these attacks have played a significant role in driving up female membership. Whenever an extreme gender violence case breaks out, we welcome a new wave of students, says Mayo. One coach based in the southern Henan province, surnamed Wang, shares that she has added a women's self-defense class to the schedule at her gym. As so many worried parents were asking about classes for their daughters. A 20-year-old college student in Shanghai, surnamed Yu, tells Sixth Tone that her father signed her up for a course of classes at Mayo's boxing gym. Her voice trembles slightly as she explains that she often struggles with anxiety. My father thought boxing could at least help me learn how to protect myself, she says. Several other members of Mayo's gym say they first started attending for similar reasons. On one wall of the gym, the students have posted a handwritten sign that reads, "Hit me as hard as you can. I will fight back." Okay, and there's some women sparring right there. Women take part in a sparring session at a boxing gym in Shanghai. Taking on the trolls. Because you know they're going to be trolls. There's going to be the haters. You know that. Going to be the haters. So taking on the haters. Okay. Trolls, haters, same thing. Now the students are equally defiant when it comes to facing down any ridicule or abuse they receive. There's still a real stigma attached to women boxing in China, with many perceiving the sport as unfeminine. And the opposition to female boxing has intensified in recent years as the sport has become more associated with radical feminism. The Chinese word nuquan can mean both female boxer and feminism when spoken out loud, and over time, anti-feminist groups have adopted the term as a way to mock radical feminists, implying that they are overly militant. Li, a 24-year-old from the northern city of Tianjin, regularly takes to social media to mock female boxers in his spare time. He is a member of one of China's largest anti-feminist online groups on the forum site Baidu Taiyaba, or something like that. It's a social media site. It represents anti-feminist. It's an anti-feminist online group, okay? Now, the messy and ridiculous look of Chinese feminists shouting out their slogans is very much like the way boxers throw punches randomly, says Li, who declined to reveal his full name for privacy reasons. It's ugly and funny. Yeah, just a hater. They're always going to have the haters, you know. Anything positive, there's going to be some negative kickback. That's any aspect of life. Now, many others are doing the same thing. On the social platform Weibo, a search for the keyword nuquan produces only a handful of posts about real women's boxing matches. Instead, the results list is dominated by angry screeds responding to recent gender-related news stories. And there's her name is Ning Chu. She takes part in a fight in Shanghai in 2023. Ning Chu. She came out of Mayo's boxing gym. Now, the barrage of insults, however, only appears to be boosting the popularity of women's boxing. Some Chinese feminists have begun referring to themselves with pride as female boxers and encouraging others to take up the sport. The co-owner of a store selling feminist merchandise on the Chinese e-commerce platform tells Six Tone that one of her most popular items at the moment is a sticker featuring an icon of a clenched fist, a symbol for female boxing in China. We made this sticker to encourage everyone to reappropriate the definition of nuquan in everyday life, says Pang. Nuquan shouldn't be a bad word. Instead, it should be a badge of honor for the battling traditional stereotypes imposed on women. It should be a badge of honor for those battling traditional stereotypes imposed on women. For Chen, the growing popularity of women's boxing in China is opening up more opportunities for women. It frees women from the trap of weakening themselves and encourages them to actively rely on themselves and be powerful and independent, she says. And they have a resident dog in Mayo's gym, right? That they are playing with. Yep. They have a dog that lives in there. Mm-hmm. There's some of her students playing with the dog. Now, Mayo, the boxing gym owner, echoes this point. When she first started boxing as a teenager in China's elite sports school system, the other students used to make fun of her for doing men's stuff, she recalls. They called her doing men's stuff. Now, at first, the comments stung, but Mayo kept training and gradually grew to love the way boxing made her feel. Many of her students are now embarking on the same journey, she says. Boxing has supported the most fragile part of me, says Mayo. I hope this gym can help more women experience the same feeling. They can and should feel more powerful. Okay, a little on women's boxing in China. Now let's look at a couple of Chinese boxers. Okay, yeah, let's look at a couple of Chinese. Yeah, some of the top 10 of the top boxers from China. Okay, yeah. This is the last thing I had. Not the 10 top boxers in China, but 10 of the top Chinese boxers in history. Not currently in history. They had 3 world champions so far. Like I said, will Zhilei Zhang be the 4th Chinese world champion? I don't think so. Zhilei getting kind of like up there. Let's look at these boxers. Okay. Oh man. Need some light. And Zhilei Zhang is going to be the first one. I would butcher his name if I hadn't heard so many people say it so much. You know, Zhilei Zhang, he's going to be first. And there he is. This is Zhilei on the right. Okay, let's talk about a little about Zhilei real quick. Okay. Also known as Big Bang Zhang, right? Okay, bear with me for one moment, please. Zhilei Zhang. Come on, Zhilei Zhang. There we go. He also known as Big Bang Zhang, right? He's a former WBO interim heavyweight champion. Born in Shanxi, China. He was an Olympic silver medalist. Twice under the guidance of Queensberry Promotions, right? April 2024, Zhang defeated Joe Joyce at London's Copper Box Arena, which launched him to stardom in China. And he also got a victory over Deontay Wilder, remember? Okay. Next is Keon Lee. Is Keon Lee. I think we might have mentioned her in one of these articles we were talking about. Okay, yeah, Keon Lee is a first woman to win 3 Olympic boxing medals. She won bronze in the women's middleweight class in 2016, silver in 2020, and gold in 2024, right? Lee began boxing in 2007 after playing basketball in school. Her height and arm length caught the attention of Chinese boxing team coaches while she was studying at the Inner Mongolia Vocational College of Physical Education. Yep. She was won 3 gold medals, right? First woman to win 3 gold medals, as a matter of fact. Chai Mang Chu, remember him? I know we talked about Chai Mang. Yeah. Chai Mang Chu. There's Chai Mang Chu. Chai Mang Chu is a 2-time Olympic champion, In amateur boxing, he is China's most successful boxer of all time. In the light flyweight division, he won 3 consecutive Olympic medals, as well as 3 World Amateur Boxing Championships gold medals: 2005, 2007, and 2011. Chai-Ming Chu. Con Chu. On the right. Con Chu. He held the WBA featherweight title from 2019 to 2021. Con Chu. Islam Kanat. Is Islam. Okay, Islam Kanat. He's a Chinese-born Kazakhstani pro boxer who currently lives and trains in Miami. As an amateur, he represented China, winning bronze medals at the 2008 Summer Olympics, 2007 World Championships, and the 2006 Asian Games. Very decorated amateur boxer. Fan Long Mang. It's Fan Long Mang. Okay. He held the IBF Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title between 2017 and 2019. Fan Long Mang. Yuan Chang. I think I'm doing pretty good with these names. Yuan Chang. Ain't I? What y'all think? I'm doing very good. Yuan Chang. It's got a couple more. We're gonna get some link time in a minute. It's almost 3:30. If not, I got a plan B. Yuan Chang. Did I change it? I can't remember. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Yuan Chang is a Chinese amateur boxer. On August 8, 2024, she defeated Turkish boxer Hatice Akbars by 5-0 to win the gold medal in women's 654 kilogram boxing at the 2024 Summer Olympics, thus becoming the first ever Chinese female boxer to win a gold medal at any Olympics. All right. Con Can Ren. I don't know about that one. Con Can Ren. But there he is. Got 3 more. Con Can Ren. Female Chinese boxer who has won 3 world championships. She took up boxing in 2002 and won the silver medal in the 2012 Summer Olympics in London in the women's boxing flyweight division. She's a southpaw. She's also a bronze medalist of women's 51 kilogram title at 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. All right. And here's Chai-Ping Zhang. No. Chai-Ping Zhang. Chai-Ping Zhang. Okay. It's got 2 more. I went backwards, I think. Yeah, Taipei. Chinese amateur boxer of Mongol ethnicity who won a gold medal as a light heavyweight in the 2008 Home Olympics in Beijing. Okay, and finally, Honggu. Honggu. Is Honggu. And finally, Honggu. Chinese boxer and Olympic medalist. She's a two-time silver medalist at the Amateur International Boxing Association Women's World Boxing Championships and a three-time gold medalist at the Asia Amateur Boxing Championships. She won a silver medal in the women's welterweight event at the 2020 Summer Olympics. Okay, there you have it. Boxing in China. Boxing in China. Okay. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about, the profile will be Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. Okay? Roman Chocolatito. Tomorrow. Gonna be a good one. Terry Akers in the building. What's up, Terry? How are you today? That beautiful favorite sister-in-law. And BVO Boxing TV in the building. The founder of the STN Network. 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. What's up, BVO? Now what? Now what? Now what? What just happened? The music stopped. Can y'all still hear me? Let me fix that in a Okay, can y'all hear me? I don't know what happened. The laptop just went out on me. I just need a thumbs up from somebody, please. I can't get that daggone chat up or nothing, man. What's going on? Bear with me for a minute, please. Okay. Can anybody hear me in the chat? I don't know what's going on here. Let me check with Miss Cass. Can you hear me? Okay, I guess I'm back. I'm gonna still drop the link and see what happens. I don't know, the laptop just went haywire on me. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're winding down anyway, but yeah, I don't know what happened. The laptop just went out, went blank. I'm on the phone now. Yeah. Okay. Bear with me for a minute, please. I'll be right with y'all. Okay, I'm back. I guess I'm back. But yeah, boxing in China. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And now we're Tomorrow is Chocolatito Gonzalez. I don't know how to bring people up from the phone. I can't even hear the music. What's up, Technique? Okay, I don't know what's going on. I can't hear the music or anything, but yeah, we're winding down. Remember, tomorrow is Technique says Zhang would probably beat any Chinaman that ever existed. Salute, Technique. Yeah. There's some pretty good ones. Pretty good Chinese boxers over the years. If anybody's in the back, I'm on the phone. I don't know how to. I can't get anybody up, and I can't even hear the music. So, if anybody's in the back, I'm on the phone. But let's do this. My laptop just went out on me. I don't know what happened. Okay. I'm gonna cut it short early because I don't know what happened. Okay. Tomorrow is going to be Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, okay? So join me then. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully I have everything ironed out. Appreciate everybody that came by today, though. Everybody have a great afternoon. I'm out.